Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another FudgeMuppet Fallout 4 build. It's Michael here, and if you live under a rock and haven't heard the news, we're bringing Fallout 4 builds back every single week. Yeah. Weekly Skyrim builds too. We'll also have Fallout 4 modded builds, but not just yet. But this Fallout 4 build you see is what we're going to be talking about right now. It's a build of strength, honor, and glory. That's right, today's build is the Gladiator, a combat-oriented arena character that will have you test your mettle against all odds. With your back against the wall, your Everside surrounded by worthy opponents, and the crowd roaring for blood, the Gladiator's underlying motivation is that of proving his worth as both an athlete and a combatant, leaping at every opportunity to undertake feats of greatness, endure raging battles, and make a name for himself. A devout student to the sanctity of honor, the Gladiator finds neither glory nor pleasure in being matched toe-to-toe with opponents weaker than he is, and the same can be said about employing deceitful or unfair means in order to achieve victory. Such avenues of battle are seen in his eyes as hollow and unworthy. As an avid naturalist, be sure to steer clear from all the chems and aid that may assist or enhance his abilities. As an extra challenge in this playstyle, try your very best not to use any Radaway and Stimpaks. Think back to Fallout New Vegas and how Caesar's Legion opposed the use of chems and alcohol. It goes without saying that you'll also be avoiding power armor. Have no fear though, as the perks we have prescribed will be sure to make the Gladiator quite the sturdy fellow. Next up, we're getting into the backstory, and do remember that there are links in the description to help you navigate throughout the video. While you're there, be sure to follow us on Snapchat and Twitter for a real 5D FudgeMuppet experience, to get an exclusive look at our vintage doorknob collection, or just to catch a glimpse of our heads. Let's dive right into the ring with the Gladiator and find out what kind of man he was before the bombs fell. Prior to the vault, the Gladiator was an athlete through and through. He was the only freshman to make the varsity team for both football and wrestling, living by a strict health and lifestyle regime. Competition raged through his blood. His name was one that was recognized all over the state. His greatest downfall, which would eventually form his post-vault persona, was his high-tempered personality and his tendencies towards violence. The Gladiator's fame soon became notoriety. Although he was a star athlete, his status as an asset or liability was extremely volatile and changed with his mood. He was offered a college scholarship but saw it as an unnecessary detour towards greatness. Instead, he chose to explore personally untouched territory, boxing. The Gladiator trained with such drive and ferocity that he would soon not go unnoticed. He would, however, not compete in official divisions, as he saw the regulations, codes, and traditional institutions as another unnecessary burden that starved the beast of true competition. The Gladiator sought the thrills of the underground. Unbeknownst to him, he had been participating in semi-fixed matches run by the hands of the mob. When he inevitably discovered this point, in fact, the Gladiator left the entire circuit behind, much to the mob's annoyance. In his eyes, there was nothing more empty than a victory that was well assured regardless of the circumstance. He was after the rush one gets from defending yourself from a man that is trying to kill you, and the triumph of defeating such a threat. When global tensions rose to an all-new level, the Gladiator naturally enlisted in the military. Throughout his military career, he faced problems with discipline and obedience. He didn't like following the orders of his commanding officer so precisely. He would often charge forth by himself as an army of one type operator when the chance presented itself. He obviously wasn't insane, so he didn't take the sort of risks that would see him dead without a chance to retaliate. The Gladiator's performance in the military was higher than almost all the others around him. However, because of his lack of respect, he wasn't praised very often. In fact, he even went so far as to almost being court-martialed for his disobedience. This was prevented by numerous acts of valor, which were his means of chasing adrenaline fixes. When he was discharged, the Gladiator chose to pursue boxing once more. The formerly mob-fixed circuit was under new management. The entire culture had evolved into more of a blood sport than an illegal revenue stream. Eventually, he would come to meet a nice girl who saw a deeper humanity in him. She worked towards mellowing him out, a real Beauty and the Beast type situation. They got married, tried to settle down, and succeeded in having a son. It was new, but things got much newer on that fateful day of October 23rd, when the sirens sounded and the old world was left behind. After leaving the vault, the Gladiator's motivations are very clear-cut. find his son, use any factions necessary, and fight your way around the world like Russell Crowe does with Tugger. When it comes to faction choices, the perspective of the Gladiator is quite interesting. He will be siding with factions, but it will be reluctantly as he views them as weak. This will give all our amazing viewers way more wiggle room to explore the character with a bit more autonomy. Really, just go for it. Side with whoever you want. But on the subject of weakness, let me explain his outlook on factions and how you want to make your ultimate decision. The Gladiator believes the Minutemen are weak in the sense that they spend too much time accommodating for the weak and thus mingle among even more weakness, wasting resources that could be used to build the strong stronger. He believes the Brotherhood are weak in the sense that they depend on enormous metal suits of armor decked out with ungodly arsenals and fly around in ships high above any harm. The Gladiator believes the Railroad are weak in the sense that they retreat to the underground, employ stealthy methods, and avoid outright combat. And finally, he believes the Institute are weak because they outsource their bidding to robots, synths, unnatural beings. You get the point. The Gladiator views factions as merely tools for his objectives. He himself will not quite fit in with any of them, but he can still earn their favor by helping them. We personally recommend exploring the potential for a real rough and tough juggernaut of a Minutemen character. To customize this build into something darker and grittier, feel free to side with the Raiders if that option presents itself once the Nuka World DLC drops. And remember, we don't rule your lives, or maybe we do, but you are allowed to respect factions for certain reasons if you want to, as long as the rationalization makes sense to you. With the start game special stats, you'll want to have 9 strength, 1 perception, 7 endurance, 1 charisma, 1 intelligence, 8 agility, and 1 luck. The special book in Sanctuary will be used on agility, bringing it up to a nice 9 and unlocking the Blitz perk. Due to his low intelligence, your speed of leveling will be somewhat impeded, but that won't really matter. He's essentially a pair of trained fists, not a philosopher. It will be easy to deal with while you take the scenic route of gameplay, taking some you time to challenge, compete, and conquer everyone and everything. If this proves too bothersome for you, you can change this by shaving down some of the other stats in order to make room for some intelligence points, or even work on the Idiot Savant perk. The composition of this build is a given for a former elite athlete turned wasteland warrior. The high strength will translate to high melee damage and melee enhancing perks. The high endurance will equal high health and life sustaining perks. The high agility will translate to rapid punching power, great perks to benefit sprinting and make use of tons of VATs. Remember to get all the bobbleheads as well, and if you don't know where to get anything this build needs, there's plenty of video links in the description to help you out. Now we'll get into the perks this build uses. You can see everything you need to on screen for all the perk choices from level 1 up to level 50. Pause the video and screenshot it now if you want to save the information for later. So firstly, let's talk about making this build really tough. Because remember, he is all natural and will want to avoid using stim packs and Radaway most of the time, and definitely chems at all times. So we'll be giving him those 2 extra points of endurance you see for some nice extra health and also more perk access. We'll be using rad resistance to fight off radiation and adamantium skeleton to ensure our bones are unbreakable. This helps heaps against explosive turrets and goes perfectly with such a brutal character who often endangers himself for the thrill of battle. So eventually you won't be taking limb damage at all and you'll receive much lower radiation, and then we're going to use a combination of Life Giver and Solar Powered to give you awesome health regen. Obviously, Solar Powered will make you punch even harder and be even harder to kill due to the +2 strength and endurance bonuses, and remember, the second rank of Solar Powered helps plenty with radiation. Don't forget, Life Giver ranks also just increase health even more. With our endurance maxed out, we also get the toughness perks to increase our resistances, and obviously with our armor, we're using the Armorer perk to aid resistances even more. Aqua Boy will also be there to make sure water is not a problem. Have I mentioned being tough yet? Because this build gets way tougher with the Lone Wanderer perk, which we did of course allocate an extra point of charisma for. This makes us do 25% more damage and take 30% less. In terms of strength perks too that we haven't mentioned, Iron Fist and Rooted will be there to increase our fisting damage even more. The Rooted perk goes perfectly with the Blitz perk, which we're also using. This allows us to pretty much teleport in using VATs, doing even more damage, and because it does plant us still on the floor near our target, it makes Rooted very easy to use. Also, just a tip, remember to use the power attack button all the time to get finishes constantly. The moving target perk also allows for powerful sprinting bonuses for when you don't feel like using VATs. That said, all those ranks of Action Boy will give you plenty of VATs and sprinting use for whatever you desire. We're also allocating a point of luck to get the Bloody Mess perk because what's a Gladiator without overkill and bloodshed? It also makes you cause more damage, which is sensational. Not including gear, but including bobbleheads, the Gladiator's stats should be as follows: 10 strength, 2 perception, 10 endurance, 3 charisma, 2 intelligence, 10 agility, and 3 luck. The prescribed gear for the Gladiator build is very aesthetic, as always on FudgeMuppet. As we often recommend, wear whatever is available early game that is similar to the end game armor choice, a mix of radar, metal, and leather gear until you get up to what we recommend. But what do we recommend? Buckle up, buckaroos, we're about to go through the rundown. Polished, sturdy metal leg pieces with the custom fitted mod to reduce sprint AP cost. Polished heavy metal left arm with the weighted mod to ignore target armor. Polished sturdy metal right arm, also with the weighted mod. Polished Assaultron helmet from the Automatron DLC, and a studded, sturdy leather chest piece with a pneumatic mod to reduce the magnitude of incoming staggers. Raider leathers will be worn underneath. The aesthetic is truly a tribute to the battle arena warriors of Rome. For any additional stylistic reference, refer to Ridley Scott's Gladiator, or actual Rome. And obviously, as a Gladiator, this is a very post-apocalyptic look. There's no Caesar's Legion armor in this game. The Furious Power Fist will be your main weapon of choice, as it has the power to decimate your opponents, yet also relies on your strength and skill to use it. It's also much less sophisticated than the arsenals of your foes. And this all goes with the theme of challenging battle. It can be obtained quite early on at Swan's Pond if you prepare, and no customization is needed. This legendary weapon stacks damage upon damage with each consecutive hit on the same target, making it very effective. In terms of companions, feel free to use Kate, especially so as a romance choice, but do keep in mind that Gladiator does not like to depend on others. Consistent with his character, he believes it shows great weakness to require assistance. He likes to demonstrate his merit without aid, and obviously having the Lone Wanderer perk, you don't want to play through the whole game without those powerful advantages. The Gladiator also won't have advanced settlement building perks. That being said, he will still gather materials and build a fully functioning arena where he can trap beasts and raiders to battle and train, keeping himself at the top of his game and also keeping him entertained. He'll enjoy some jolly belly laughs as he pits combatants against each other in battle for the satisfaction of both himself and spectators. And that concludes another FudgeMuppet Fallout 4 build. Thank you guys so much for watching, and do check back with us next week for another innovative, cutting-edge Apple think tank Nikola Tesla future wave role-playing experience. Remember, we've also got other awesome content coming out in the meantime, including those Skyrim builds. Throw us a like if you thought we did alright this time round, a share if you think this build should live, and just for the hell of it, subscribe to us if you want your vengeance in this life or the next. My name is Michael, this was the Gladiator, and I'll see you all next time.